Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Computer America Show. Ben and I have a terrific show planned for you. In the first hour, Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuy.org, is going to be joining us, talking about everything from Teslas to talcum. Okay, and then in the second hour of the show, Mike, I thought you said you would send, when you send stuff to me, send it to Ben, so I don't have to.
I don't know if I even have Ben's email address.
Ben@computeramerica.com.
How will I ever remember that?
Ladies, please don't abuse the privilege now that you know this.
That's right.
1 minute until showtime.
And in the second hour, we're going to have IBM, the quantum scientist from IBM, going to be talking about quantum computers. They just made a huge announcement today, and we're going to be one of the first to hear about it here on the Computer America Show. They're going to be joining us from Zurich, Switzerland in the second hour. So sit back, relax as we do 2 hours. Very exciting here of Computer America. Fifteen seconds.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we have a really jam-packed show and lots of things to talk about. Welcome into the Computer America Show. In the second hour, we're going to head all the way over to Zurich, Switzerland. We're going to be joined by IBM is going to be joining us. Their quantum scientist with IBM Research, Dr. Andreas Forer, is going to be joining us. They have a big announcement about a game-changing quantum computing announcement that they're making today. We're going to be bringing that to you here on the Computer America Show. Some exciting stuff. In the first hour, Mike Cermak is going to be joining us. Just as exciting, of course. He's the operator of TechGuy.org, and he's going to be joining us here momentarily. Just a quick update. Because of some of the inclement weather here, we're having some difficulties. My understanding is the IRN radio network, which carries our show, is offline. I actually got a call from the network saying that they will be off for the rest of the day. Hopefully they'll have everything up and running tomorrow. Everything will be back broadcast. So if you listen to us normally on the IRN radio network or even the TuneIn radio network, both of those are just going to get dead air today. Their modem is down and they need to reset that. So hopefully it'll be coming up tonight. And tomorrow we'll be back broadcasting on those networks. Let's see, what else I need to do? Of course, if you have a comment or question, give us a call at 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. I'll get you on and get you through. Any page at ComputerAmerica.com in the upper right-hand corner, it says submit a question. If you're radio shy, you don't want to go on the air, that's a great way. Just click it. It's a link. It'll take you to a question submission page. You can type in your question, hit the submit button. Ben and I will see what you've typed immediately. The other thing you can do is you can also watch the show. We have live video streaming of Computer America. Again, just head over to any page at ComputerAmerica.com. You'll see the menu bar. It says Show Lounge. Click it. You'll be transported immediately to our live video streaming page. You'll be joined to the show already in progress, and you can watch the Computer America Show. Ben, you can see Mike Cermak, our guest. You'll be able to see Ben. And Ben also has the technology to display websites, videos, movies, links, that type of thing, so you can see what we're talking about as well as hear what we're talking about. Just makes for a more enriched experience. In fact, anything you need to know about a show is at computeramerica.com. It is the internet home of our radio broadcast. 347-884-8881. One more time to get you on and get you through. Ben, anything before we get started that you want to mention?
Anything worth mentioning? Not yet. Like I feel like there's a couple things that I would really like to talk about. Can't talk about them just yet, but as always, check out our website. There's plenty of past shows and things like that, as well as articles that we write from time to time. Where I think we have enough data to safely review the new Honeywell thermostat, the Lyric 2. So
yeah. We've been playing with it. I like it, but maybe we'll talk about it a little later. Probably not today. We just won't have time, but we certainly can get into the.
Well, no, I'm just saying that there will be an article forthcoming about the review of that.
Okay, good.
So be sure to keep checking our website for articles, and don't worry, I'm not trying to drive you to the website so that we get more advertising dollars, because we don't have advertising. So your ad blockers need not apply.
Mm-hmm.
We already did that job for you.
Not on the website.
But other than that, no, I'll always check out the video portion. We're gonna have video. We are going to be doing videos on at least the first part of the show of like demonstrations and things like that of things we're going to be talking about. So, here's your notice. We are going to be using some video in today's show at least.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, good. So let's get to it. Mike Cermak, as I mentioned, is the owner-operator of TechGuy.org, which is a website dedicated to helping others with their computer problems and answering their questions. If you're looking for free technical support, TechGuy.org is the right place for you to be. It's been around since 1996, and Mike's site is run completely by volunteers and paid for completely by donations and sponsors. Mike is also one of our Computer America correspondents who appears on every first Wednesday of the month. Boy, they come around fast, don't they? Mike, welcome.
They really do.
To Computer America. How are you? They do, don't they?
I'm doing great. I was shocked. I looked at my calendar this morning. I was like, how can it be time for Computer America already? Like, I just did that last week.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it?
It does. I tell you.
Time flies.
So, yeah, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing fine. I'm kind of excited
weather.
about the second hour from IBM.
Yeah, me too.
About quantum computing. They've got one of their.
That is something that really baffles my mind. I'm going to be eager to listen in, and I understand basic concepts of quantum computing, but that is the extent of it.
All right. Well.
Oh, so then you're ahead of 99% of the other hosts in this call. That's nice. It's good.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a complicated topic.
Right. That's right, because I feel like I don't have to be an expert in this. Craig doesn't have to be an expert, because we're going to have the expert on, and hopefully they can break it down into little words. So
and the key to it is to ask your questions and say, I understand this, but for those who are listening, can you explain it as though I'm in fourth grade?
Of course.
I mean, when we have a guest whose title is Chief Quantum Scientist with IBM Research, I mean, come on, So this is obviously somebody knows about quantum theory and everything. And
I need to work on my title. I need to be the chief quantum something. Right?
When they want to sound exotic, they just use the word quantum, and in itself has a visceral response, I think, to people that But this is truly the real quantum stuff. This is what we're dealing with here. He's a quantum scientist with IBM Research, and he's going to be here in the second hour. So yes, you're more than welcome to stay with us. As a matter of fact, if you want to stay on and maybe have a question or something and kind of get on the conversation, feel free. I mean, I'd be very pleased to have you, Mike, along with us when we're interviewing this gentleman. So
I appreciate it. Maybe I'll stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, okay, good enough. So anyhow, as we always do with Mike, I always ask, what would you like to talk about and different topics. And the first thing I want to start off was we did a news story on it yesterday that there was this rumor of the creator of Bitcoin was supposed to be this Oriental gentleman. His name escapes me momentarily. I'll think of it. And
Komodo.
Yeah, exactly. And so now all of a sudden, and nobody really knows who created Bitcoin. I don't know why he wanted to keep it secret, and I don't think why he would have anything to hide. But for some reason, he wasn't there. Evidently. a gentleman who is an Australian tech entrepreneur, Craig Wright, told the BBC that he was the creator of Bitcoin. And people were saying, and he was not Satoshi Nakamoto, or it was not Satoshi Nakamoto, but it was in fact him. And
he was claiming that Satoshi Nakamoto was his online
alias.
Alias. And we actually had 2 days ago. You should know this. We had the president of a company called Greenbank, Greenbank Capital Incorporated, Mike. We had Danny Wetrich, who was the CEO of the company, and they were just getting ready to introduce something called GreenCoinX, which is a cryptocurrency. But how it differs from Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, that in order to get GreenCoinX, you have to identify who you are, and they're one of the first to do that. Most everything else with cryptocurrency, you're anonymous,
right?
And they had all kinds of reasons why they wanted to do that way. It was very interesting, and this came up in a news story after he appeared on the show. So we really didn't get any feedback from him, but what's your feeling? You think this guy is yanking our chains? Because someone said, to prove that you are who you say you are, it's really easy for you to do. You had to go to I think it was the very first, was it the chain, and provide the number 1, which is the very first crypt key, to show that, and provide that for us, and if you are, then you are who you say you are. And I don't think that's happened, or at least I don't think so.
I think you're right. I think he has shown a demonstration that he can create some of this cryptography that was created by the first person. So there's certainly some evidence to suggest that he is or has some connection to that, but I don't know. I don't think it's 100% certain just yet. And the way Bitcoin works, which you guys probably discussed to some length earlier, is it is a decentralized currency. So instead of having a database somewhere like your credit card or your bank or whatever would have of how much money everyone has, it's this decentralized where the chains go around the world, and there's little bits of those chains everywhere on lots of computers. And so as a result, it's anonymous, as you said, and that's one of the advantages or disadvantages of it, depending on how you look at it. There's a lot of people who like Bitcoin for its anonymity, and some who don't. But as a result of that, this anonymous person, and we've known for some time that this name was an alias, that it wasn't a real person's name, or at least strongly suspected it. But there were a lot of different suspicions of several different people that have been suspected to be the creator over time, but this is the first time that anyone has stepped up and said, yeah, it's me, and has had some evidence to kind of support that claim. It's not 100% yet, but it looks very likely, in my opinion.
Well, what was his reasons for hiding? I realize Bitcoin is the stuff of drug dealers and terrorists, because but
there is that, yeah, and there is the whole idea of creating a currency that some countries don't find such a great idea, at least not without taxing it. But the other side of it is that because he started it at the beginning and he did a lot of the processing at the beginning, there's something called Bitcoin mining, which you may be familiar with. I've done a little bit of Bitcoin mining myself, where by taking part of creating that chain and entering new transactions into the chain and kind of keeping this thing moving, your computer is rewarded with little bitcoins periodically. And the longer the process goes on, the more computers that are taking place in that, the fewer bitcoins you get per transaction that you help. So by being in very early, he established quite a wealth of bitcoins that's at the moment estimated to be around $440 million worth. So as a result, what he chooses to do with that can impact the currency at large. I mean, if he, all of a sudden pulls that all out and, or starts selling it at a discount or whatever, then that can affect how much bitcoins are worth on the market. So I think part of the idea of being anonymous was probably for that reason. First of all, if you suddenly win the lottery and have $400 million, I wouldn't be going around announcing it for various reasons. But also, if you could personally, sell something that could affect the market, the currency that you've created to that degree, I think that's part of it as well, is that people are now nervously watching to see what happens with this, because if you can devalue it that quickly, it could affect a lot of people.
Well, my next question is, why now? I mean, why does he feel the obligation to come forward and say, okay, it's really me? I mean, why?
Yeah, That's a good question. Wired magazine suspected them, all but pointed out to him back in December and suggested that he was probably the creator. And they said, let me find the quote here. They said he either invented Bitcoin or is a brilliant hoaxer who very badly wants us to believe he did. and so shortly after that, he took down his Twitter accounts and stopped responding to press requests and so on. And I don't know why. After that, he was in the news a little bit because all of a sudden he lives in Australia, as you mentioned, and all of a sudden his house was broken. It was not broken into, but police came in and came into the house and looked through it, and which, as it turns out, wasn't related to Bitcoin in any way. There was just some tax evasion issues that Australia suspected him of, and as a result, they came in and busted down his doors and took some computers. And so he's been in the news a little bit as a result of that. So I don't know, to be honest, why all of a sudden he said, yeah, okay, you got me. Because originally he was saying, no, it's not me. And now he's kind of changed his story, and I'm not sure. That's a good question.
So let me ask you this: what do you think? Again,
I think it's my gut.
I mean, if you were Satoshi Nakamoto and you heard about this guy Craig Wright trying to take your stuff, would you think Satoshi would actually come forth now, or what?
Well, good question. What's the advantage, though? If suppose I was the creator of Bitcoin and have $440 million of Bitcoins, I wouldn't be doing the show. But if I were,
why not? Oh, you're the wealth, Mike.
But if I were, what advantage would it be for me to come out and identify myself? I'd still have all of the reasons to try and remain anonymous as I did to begin with. So I don't know. I don't see why someone would come out and say, no, it's really me.
Because the only reason that I can think of was that, now that you are the pseudo creator of Bitcoin, you are now being called by every financial expert to explain this. You're now being called by every news organization to explain it to their audience. Your speaking engagement fee just went up from $10 and a cup of coffee to thousands of dollars.
Yep. And if he publishes a book next month, then I think we'll have our answer.
Yeah, but then does that mean now that he has $440 million in Bitcoins, is that all taxable? I mean,
that's a good question. That depends on the country.
Yeah.
And I don't know Australia's laws, but I don't know. I don't know Australia's laws. I don't want to jump to any conclusions there.
Yeah, they're the same as the U.S. They're just upside down.
Well, yeah. It's considered a capital gain. If you create something that also now has a worth of $440 million, you're going to get taxed on it. I would think it's capital gain.
Well, but are you taxed until you sell? I mean, are you taxed before you sell it? Because if he hasn't sold those coins for any value and gotten any actual money in return for it,
that's true.
Yeah. So the real, I mean, that's
You need a good tax attorney, and I'm talking H&R Block. I'm talking about somebody who's going to really, give him some sound advice. But
my favorite thing is that the Bitcoin, it was born on the web, it was propagated on the web, it's really used for web-based transactions. Not like you're going to walk up to someone, hand them a token, and say, "This is a Bitcoin, have fun." Like it's all about the web. So of course there is actually a really, really, invested community on the web, and love them or hate them, they usually hang out on Reddit. And this story broke like 2 days ago, and there was a blog post here. I'm going to throw it up on the video portion, but someone actually took the time to go and check some of the quote unquote proof that he had given, and it's they have the signature that he provided that proved that he had a transaction that Satoshi had made back in 2009, and they did this thing where they converted it to hex. I have no idea why. I don't know that much about Bitcoin, about why you want to convert it to hex, but the result was completely different than anything close to what you find Satoshi was doing. So his quote-unquote verified proof that he is giving to all these news organizations, either they're not doing their due diligence or they are really falling for this, but Craig Wright's signatures are not matching up anywhere close to what Satoshi's were.
Well, is that what it was? I think it was also the bit chain, the bit chain. Supposedly the very, very first one, the number one is the one which would be the ultimate proof, and I guess he hasn't given that either.
It's that whole thing where if he really was Satoshi, he would have the the easiest proof in the world, and it would be any of those first those first mining operations. The first because just like Mike said, he has about $440 million worth of bitcoins. If he just released any of those thousands upon thousands of bitcoins that only he could have, if he released number 1, if he released number 5, then that would prove beyond the shadow of a doubt. But he is refusing to, kind of release the signatures that are going to say, yeah, this is 100% without a doubt him. He's just not doing that. It's why would you keep yourself so muddled if not to simply fool people into thinking what you want them to think?
Yeah,
and the last
yeah,
question.
and I don't see the advantage, like you pointed out earlier. I don't see the advantage of him coming forward.
Yeah, I mean, why is he doing it now? I mean, all this time in secrecy, and now to what end? What's he trying to do? Is it he just trying to say, "Hey, I'm the creator"? I mean, I don't get it.
Right, and also, fun fact, but Craig Wright has also made this claim in 2014 and 2015 as well.
So this is not the first time.
So he didn't just come out and say it.
No, yeah, but evidently
I didn't know that.
It's getting a lot of evidently it's getting a lot of press because the first couple of times.
Well, no, it's definitely very interesting because I think the origins of Bitcoin is such a fascinating story that the beginning of a global currency, if Bitcoin really does take it to the next level at some point in the next couple of years and actually becomes a viable currency for everyday transactions, then the origin of Bitcoin is going to be one of the weirdest stories in tech history ever.
Well, and there's always been some speculation that the pseudonym was not representative of just one person, but it was a group of people who had developed it.
Right.
Does one person have the brain power to create something like this?
I'm certain there are people who can.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not one of them, but I'm certain there are people who could.
Well,
But it's probably more likely to work in a team, I would say, more likely than one person just going out and doing this on their own.
I can tell you, if this was a team effort, though, that's each member of the team that counts as another possible leak.
Yeah, that's true.
When you have it, you do it yourself. There's no one else to question but you. But when you start to have a collaboration, I'm sorry, but that's got leaks written all over.
But at the same time, you write up a little shared contract between yourselves, and it's like any member of this organization who leaks information about who we are, they forfeit their share of $440 million.
Go prove it and try to enforce that. That's going to be a whole different thing.
That's the problem with any kind of conspiracy theory is that, like we didn't land on the moon. How many people would have had to have been involved with that?
Exactly. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think one guy, I really do think it's one guy, because I don't think you could keep a secret like this with 2 or more people. And
that's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
This whole thing is speculation, and that's my 2 cents.
But also, the cool thing about this was that the whoever the creator of Bitcoin was, they made everything open. You could read the source code, you could read just how it works, and put out a lot of nice information so that just like 2 days ago we had Greencoin X on, and they like Craig said, you have to provide identification for who you are, but they were only able to make that because of the work that the people who created Bitcoin first put into place. Like, they really did release everything and were very, very transparent, other than the name, about how Bitcoin works, and it's doing quite well.
Yeah, it really is, and there's a whole host of alternatives now that are very similar to Bitcoin, and it's an interesting arena. People making bets on which one is going to go up faster and which one that they should mine. And I don't know if you realize this, but most people who are mining for Bitcoins and most of this other currency as well don't just use their computer sitting in front of them anymore. They usually build hardware specifically for this purpose that can do the cryptography really fast. I have a mining machine here for Bitcoins. And it's insane that, this is specialized hardware for doing this now. Who could have ever imagined that?
Yeah, I guess as long as the electricity you're spending is less than the Bitcoins you're mining, you're okay.
Well, here's the thing, and I understand that you have the dedicated, but there are people out there that spend a fortune. They have that you can't even begin to compete with, because obviously the more power you have, the better number crunching you get. So there are
absolutely right.
So it's
We had a guest on the show about a year ago, I want to say, and they started up a company where he had a day job and all that kind of thing, and he was mining for Bitcoin, and then he decided to go out on his own, and now his job, he builds these little all-in-one computers that you just have to really plug into the wall and set up with a Wi-Fi password, and it's about the size of a Pop-Tart, and it's just a little Bitcoin computer. You load up a wallet and you let it do transactions, and you can buy these things, for like $100 a piece, and have 40 of them sitting around your house just mining Bitcoin, like no screen, no terminal, just this thing produces Bitcoins.
But,
Yay.
but how
You're
well do they
exactly right.
do?
No, and that was much more popular a couple years ago before it got to the scale it is now. It's exponentially becoming more and more difficult to do enough transactions to actually earn any significant bitcoins on there, and because of exactly what Craig said, that you have these people that just have these data centers practically of computing power that they're just throwing at it, and so the little guy really can't hardly make enough to even pay for the time and electric and hardware to be able to do it anymore.
Right.
At one time, it was kind of interesting because the currency was increasing in value fast enough that it made it worthwhile, but by and large now it really doesn't anymore.
Let me ask you, since just for our listeners' edification, how much money have you made with Bitcoin with the computer, and how long have you been doing it, and how much?
I don't do it anymore. I did for quite a while, and honestly, I don't remember. I think I bought the hardware for around $100, and I think I probably made about that much back, and probably lost the cost of the electricity.
So
I don't remember exactly. I stopped a year or two ago, but something like that would be my guess.
So you didn't make it big through Bitcoin.
I did not, unfortunately. My 440 million is still out there.
yeah.
Right. But just a weird question. I mean, we were talking about these alternative currencies. Would it be do you think it's possible that one of these other currencies may become more attractive to?
Oh yeah, that's the big gamble. That's exactly it. So a lot of the people who made some money or got in on the Bitcoin mining are doing exactly that. They're trying to guess which other currency is going to be the next big one, so you can get in early enough to actually be able to make something on it before it gets big.
Right.
And it's all just a guess. I don't have any input on which one's doing well other than another, but. It's really hard to compete in that field now because there's so many different versions, so many different ones, and some of them have minor pros and cons to them, but by and large they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make any sort of educated guess as to what's actually going to take off enough that you could make money in it.
Yeah. It was the dream. I mean, you plug in a little computer, and then you come in the day, and you just rake in.
Well,
the
heck, originally I remember back when people would just use their spare CPU power, especially on your graphics card, just to turn some bitcoins. I mean, that was back when it first started. You didn't need a dedicated machine to do it. Just your extra time on your GPU could do it.
Right.
And that's not the case anymore. I mean, you can't do anything.
Because now the numbers are so big and they're so vast.
And it was designed to do that. Which makes a lot of sense. That the more people who are using it, the more computers you have on the network, that devalues how much each computer's time is worth. And so it's really a brilliant algorithm the way they designed it. But it is what it is. So now the little guy really doesn't have any reason to be too involved in it.
Right, exactly.
I do remember reading that story that someone was working IT for a middle-sized company, and they loaded up the software to mine Bitcoin, and wrote up a little thing that said only use the spare processing power that that no one else in the office is using to mine Bitcoin. And they did something wrong, and they used all the resources, and management thought they were being hacked because they were running all these transactions on the company hardware. So
I would say that would be a no-no, even if you even succeeded in using only spare resources, because most CPUs these days will slow down and use less power and less CPU cycles when the computer's not in use. So I mean, literally, especially across a whole company, if the CPUs are running at 100% instead of at 30%, that's a difference in power usage as well.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely not a good thing.
No, I wouldn't encourage people to do that.
Personally, my favorite Bitcoin alternative is Dogecoin. So they were quite popular. Doge being the little meme with the dog, kind of looking funny.
Doggy coin.
So Yeah, Dogecoin, Dogecoin, and currently sitting at a value of about $214 per coin. So, not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, $214 for every Bitcoin, for every Dogecoin.
Well, there it is. You know,
That's a
Get
little
in on that one early because it's still pretty cheap. For $215, you can own the entire Dogecoin. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what all of how much is it? $7 billion? How much is Bitcoin worth
Yeah,
today
Bitcoin's worth a lot more than 214.
altogether?
yeah.
That would be a good question. Yeah, but saying it's trading at about $448. So obviously nowhere near its almost $1,200 peak a couple of years ago, but still going up. Oddly enough, like you think after Mt. Gox and after reaching almost $1,200, dropping down to $800, and people losing hundreds and millions of dollars. It's now coming back up. Like Bitcoin seems to be getting its little foothold.
Jonathan says that, Mike, you're going to buy your next Tesla with Bitcoins.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Speaking of Tesla, I want you to speak a little bit up because I understand that you actually had an experience where you got to borrow your friend's Tesla Model X, and I want to talk about that. But we're up against the break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about that. Again, coming up in the next hour, IBM's quantum research scientist is going to be joining us from Zurich, Switzerland, talking about a big game-changing quantum computing announcement that he's going to be making that's been made today. 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. We are talking to Mike Cermak. He is the owner-operator of TechGuide.org. He's with us the first Wednesday of the month. We're going to be right back with him and all this excitement in a few moments. Please stay with us.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Okay, I give up. How many FBI agents does it take to crack? Oh, hi, Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Makina round ceiling light. Now, Makina sent an LED-based ceiling fixture, a shallow 14-inch disc with a bright but diffused glow, both downwards and around the perimeter. It provides 2125 lumens, which is almost as much as you get from a 150-watt incandescent bulb, but on 25 watts of power at a pleasant 3,000 Kelvin color temperature and with a 36,000-hour life expectancy. It's compatible with many dimmers, and we were surprised by how little it weighs. There's no hang-down part to the mounting. It does a great job of hugging the ceiling. We'll probably put this light into our soundproof recording booth. Bottom line, the Makina 14-inch round LED ceiling light is a slim and trendy-looking fixture that delivers plenty of good light for a good long time. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It's 32 minutes past the hour. 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. And Ben, it's an exciting time right now. We got Mike here. We've got IBM's going to be with us here in the next hour, talking about their quantum computers. I think we already have a little bit of a hint of what that big announcement was that they just made today, where people get a chance to play with IBM's quantum computer. But we'll talk about that in the second hour. But also, I want everybody to know that the really big news is that long before Vistaprint asked me to tell everyone about them, your mom and I have been using Vistaprint for years. We've made business cards and having the Computer America logo placed on polo shirts we used at conventions, like when you went out to CES. I mean, we didn't need a quantum computer to do it, but boy, it was there. In fact, Vistaprint offers tons of custom products for home and office needs, and Vistaprint absolutely guarantees you'll love their products every time, or they'll make it right. In fact, they'll give you 500 business cards for just $9.99 when you enter my promo code Craig at the checkout. You have to use it, Craig, C-R-A-I-G. Just go to the website and visit at Vistaprint.com, and you'll see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. Remember to use my promo code Craig and save up to 50% over the regular pricing. Don't wait. Go to Vistaprint.com and order today.
Right. So, yeah, and like they always say in the biz, because I've been in the biz now for exactly 3 months. I got my card, and they say don't advertise things that you wouldn't use yourself.
That's right.
And we definitely used it here. So,
yes,
yeah, yay Vistaprint. So, yeah, but as we said before, Mike Cermak is joining us all this first hour as we talk about, well, we're really just finishing up Bitcoin and, the mysterious progenitor? Progenitor. Progenitor. I don't know. Anyways.
Yes, of the Bitcoin, yes.
Progenitor, I don't know. Anyways, the Satoshi Nakamoto supposedly coming out in the open saying, it's me, but at the end of the day, there's really no good reason for them to come out, and I think a lot of people have casted doubt onto whether it's really him or just Craig Wright, or if Craig Wright is just looking for his 15 minutes of fame, which, really, I can't blame him. If he's smart enough to, at least appear like he is the creator, more power to him. I think I really do think it's the job of of the media and everyone, and really the individual person to be critical about this, saying why is it him? Is it really him? Where's his proof? And if you don't do the background search, if he can convince people that he is the creator, good for him. I'm glad he was smart enough to convince people.
This would not be the first time that someone who was fairly well off in life has perpetrated or tried to do a hoax on the public. There have been countless examples of people in historical past who have done something similar. Obviously it wasn't Bitcoin, but something that they claim to that they did.
My heart still yearns for Brian Williams. I know he's over at CBS now, but yeah, it happens all the time.
It happens all the time, so don't be surprised. I mean, what was it? The McAfee, was known for doing.
Oh yeah, saying that he can hack into the iPhone. Just give it to him, and then he'll become president or something.
Yeah,
that was fun.
You see, there are countless examples in the past of people who are in the limelight making claims to things that they didn't actually do. So. Anyhow, so we're talking to Mike Cermak, and we're going to swing on over to this Tesla experience, because as anyone who listens to Mike here on our show knows that he's a huge Tesla fan, and he has a Tesla automobile, albeit a slightly earlier model that didn't have all the self-driving accoutrements built into it, and he made that decision with both eyes open going into it. Because eventually you have to buy something at a certain time. You can just wait and wait and wait and wait, and it's going to be something better. We see that with computers, right? So why cars any different? So he finally made the jump and decided to go into this. But you did have an experience of driving your friend's Tesla Model X. So
I did, and actually, it's funny you should mention that about how things continue to improve, because there is the big word on the street right now in the Tesla community is that there's a lot of speculation that the next version of Autopilot is going to be announced soon. We kind of expected that when the Model 3 was announced, and at various other times. And recently, you may have seen or heard that they've just done a refresh on the Model S, the sedan. And the front end looks a little bit different, and there's a couple other small differences. It has the new bio defense mode in it and things like that. But also in it that was not announced, people have noticed that there's an extra camera in it as well that presumably is used for the autopilot, and also a couple of extra sensors and a speaker on the outside, which people suspect is going to be used for pedestrian warning if that's ever required.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of speculation about these things, but it just goes to show exactly what you said, is that it's always improving. It's always, no matter what you do, you can't wait until the best thing comes out, because inevitably it's not going to be the best thing forever. But so, yes, I had the opportunity. I give a lot of Tesla talks and electric vehicle talks in general, and I went to a Rotary Club here recently, or not recently, but locally, and talked about electric vehicles and how excited I am, and showed my Tesla and so on. And this fellow went back to his office that afternoon and ordered a Model X.
Ah.
And it came in recently, and he was using my charger here at the office. We have a public charger here, and he said, "Here, you want to take it for a spin?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me think about that." So I did.
You had to think. You even had to think.
No, I really didn't. No, not even for a moment. I had to pretend like I was, but no, it was. And the Model X, for those who don't know, is 4-wheel drive and 3 rows of seating, and it has those crazy Falcon wing doors in the back that go up rather than out.
Yeah.
And just really an incredible vehicle. And I got in there, and the most astonishing thing, which I had read about and seen pictures of, but to see it in person, is the windshield. The windshield on this vehicle, goes from where you would expect it to all the way above your head, and it's like you're in a cockpit of like a helicopter or something. It's like, and it was a little unnerving at first. It was actually a little disorienting for me for the first mile or two, because it was just so much movement and so much, outsideness, and it was strange. It was strange, but
You really
but
felt like you were out in the open, because with most cars, you get a coupe feel. Like you're surrounded by metal and steel, and you have this. And now all of a sudden, you don't have that. You're basically it's just glass.
That's exactly right. And so what Ben's showing you right now is the video of me. I don't want to say I was driving the car, but the car driving me. I had the autopilot feature turned on and driving down a local road here. And they've advertised, how wonderful autopilot is and how it's great on highways. And I decided to really challenge it a little bit, and I went on a local road because, why not? And it was just amazing. It was really, I was a little uncomfortable doing it. I kept my hands very close to the wheel because I didn't know whether
every time one of those oncoming cars passes by you, I'm like, oh god, oh god.
Imagine being me and behind the wheel of someone else's $100,000 car.
Was he in the car with you?
He was not. No. He's like, nah, just go ahead.
By yourself? How did he know you just didn't want to drive off and never came back?
Well, remember, he has his phone, and on his phone he can track the car and see exactly where it is and what it's doing. Also, I guess he trusts me, but maybe too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when you look at this, you think, well, it's like we all have done it. Come on, you're going down the road and you take your hand off the wheel just for a moment and say, look, no hands.
Yeah. Well, and what was exciting about this is not only is it keeping me in the lane, but it's watching the car in front of me and keeping a safe distance. So whenever that car slows down and stops, the car slows down and stops, and when he starts going, it starts going. And it's also reading the speed limit signs as we go along, and it's adjusting the speed based on the speed limit signs. And it's just crazy. It was really strange. Yeah, and then eventually I did take it up on the highway. There isn't a video of this. And on the highway, what it'll do is, if you want to change lanes, you just hit your turn signal, and it will check to make sure there's no one next to you, and then it'll shift over and change lanes for you.
Who was? Did you have a GoPro? Or who was taking the picture?
My father was. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, you want to ride in a Model X?" And he's, "Yeah." He didn't have to think about it either.
He didn't have to think either, right? Exactly.
He's a big Tesla fan as well, and so yeah, it was.
What was his reaction? He
loved it absolutely. He told me I have to get one.
Really? And you think you're going to comply?
Well, as soon as those $440 million of bitcoins come in,
right? Exactly. Well, now, I mean, do you think maybe? I understand it's incremental and things keep getting in the ad more and more, but
right.
Do you think now, with your experience with the X, that there is enough here now that you might say, well, now maybe it's justified for me to upgrade. It's got the doors, that go up. It's got, it has this driving ability. Do you think that maybe this is now the time to sell yours and try to get this one?
I've certainly been thinking about it. I think what I will probably do, I think I told you, I put a reservation down for the Model 3 just to keep options open. And because it's a refundable deposit, I don't know. And it's a really cool car. So I don't know if I'm going to go for that or if I'm just going to get a used X in a couple of years because, I think that might be a better buy.
Yeah. Really? Okay. Then the X rather than a 3.
Probably, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. We don't even know enough about the 3 to say for sure because we don't know all of the options that'll be available, and because there's going to be an extended battery that's going to be able to go longer, and there's going to be other features in it. Most people believe now that there's going to be a heads-up display on the windshield. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be another Model 3 unveiling event here next year. I think next year, that where they're going to talk about some of the other features of it. So it's all just speculation at this point. But we know in the Model 3 they have that touchscreen that's in the center of the row. It's between the two front seats, and there's no dashboard anymore. There's no anything, and people thought that was a little unusual. The speed is shown in the center, screen, but and Elon Musk made a comment on Twitter saying it'll make a lot more sense when you see the final design. And then someone pointed out that they hired this guy who designed a heads-up display for another auto manufacturer. So there's speculation that there's going to be a heads-up display on there, or at least as an option.
Well, again, watching the video and watching you. You have this. This is not the true autonomous driving. You still
Right.
have to tell it where to. I mean, you.
And that's the thing Tesla likes to reinforce, is that they call it autopilot for a reason, because just like in an airplane, the idea is to take over a couple of the tasks for you, but there's still that expectation that the pilot is still there and paying attention. And so similar to that, there's still an expectation the driver's still there and paying attention and ready to take over if something goes wrong, as opposed to autonomous driving like the Google car, where it's truly meant to be able to drive on its own.
So you could not, let's say, this is still like a super ultra cruise control. In other words,
Yes.
you can't
I think that's right.
You can't go to sleep by this
No.
way. You still have to be watching what's going on, but you don't have to. I mean, do you have?
Well, you can fall asleep, but you'll just find the end of the road. I mean,
or when you're out of battery.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't have to keep the accelerator pedal pressed, just like a cruise control. But now you don't have to hold on to the steering wheel.
That's right. It likes for you to touch the steering wheel every couple of minutes, just to let it know that you're still alive and paying attention.
Oh, wait,
And
no?
but you're not, unlike a lot of other manufacturers, you're not required to keep your hand on it constantly. So that's kind of nice.
But you do have to touch it every once in a while.
Yeah, every couple of minutes it'll beep at you and say, touch the steering wheel, just to check on you, make sure you're there and not taking a nap. And if you don't, then it'll beep again and then again and again, and eventually it's just constant beeping, and it'll turn the four-ways on and gradually bring the speed down and then put you in park. Which is a little bit nicer result then, because there's other systems, other car manufacturers that make systems similar to this that will do lane keep assist and things like that. But if you take your hand off the wheel, then they'll just turn themselves off and let you just drive off the road or into the oncoming traffic. And Tesla thought it might be a little bit more elegant solution to just, safely stop the car instead of just, because if you have a heart attack or a medical issue or a diabetic, whatever it is, it's a little bit nicer to just have the car stop and put the four-ways on than to just turn off the safety features.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So your overall opinion.
I love it.
You realize?
Oh, I love it. I tell you. And I'm excited for the fact that this sort of stuff is going to be available, mass market in the not too distant future. It's, it's only going to get cheaper. It's stupid expensive right now. There's no denying that. They're luxury cars. They're meant to compete with very high-end expensive cars, and they've been killing the luxury market. I mean, they're the only one that showed any growth over the last year in the luxury market, and they did an enormous growth. And but the Model 3 is going to be the make or break it. Whether or not Tesla's going to make it for the long run. That's what it's going to really come down to.
Really? I thought either this will be an anomaly, just like a Tucker,
Right. Oh, I love the Tuckers. Yeah. There's an auto up in Hershey, not far from where I live in Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's an auto museum there, and they have 3 or 4 Tuckers there. They have a whole room about Tucker.
Gorgeous. They're beautiful cars. And they were way ahead of their time, and they never.
You're absolutely right. Several people I've talked to have compared Tesla to Tucker just for that reason. But at least in Tesla's case, they've built more than, what was it? How many Tuckers were made? 50 or something?
Like that, yeah.
Not many.
Not many, but we are living in a slightly different world than he did. Obviously, they have the investment is. This was a few guys in the garage. I mean, we're talking about the battery, the place where they're actually making Teslas. I mean, they're geared up to do it. So I think I don't see Tesla just going away. Something's going to
I,
happen.
I think you're right. I mean, they could get swallowed up by another company. That wouldn't really shock me. But I certainly hope you're right. Yeah, I'm betting on it.
Yeah, exactly. So when you had to bring the car back and give it to what, describe that moment. Did you?
Yeah, I was very disappointed to go back, and I was joking that I have to suffer through with my Tesla instead of the latest Tesla. You know, it's a rough life. You know, it's a real shame to have to go back to that older technology of 2 years ago. And
But he's obviously really pleased. By the way, what kind of range
oh yeah.
what kind of range did you get on the Model X? What kind of range?
Around the same as mine. I think around 250 miles per charge, if I remember correctly. I'm going to look it up right now. They have two different battery sizes available for the Model X, and it depends on which model you get. So the 90 kilowatt is 257 miles EPA rated. The 75 kilowatt hour is 237 miles.
Okay.
So yeah, around 240, 250 miles, depending on exactly which configuration you get.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys talked about it, but I heard also that the Model 3 will be coming with the option of ludicrous speed. So
I have not heard that yet. I don't know if that's true. The Model 3 is going to have the option for autopilot, which I think is awesome. I wasn't sure they were going to offer that, but I haven't heard that yet about the ludicrous. I'd be surprised if that were the case.
I hope
But I've
so.
been surprised by Tesla before.
Right. Yeah. They seem to be doing a whole lot with the Model 3, and I mean, honestly, I'm just happy that there's one that is quote unquote affordable. You know.
Yeah. Well, and people say it's going to start at 35, and and that is before the tax breaks. There'll be a lot of tax breaks still available by that point, a $5,000 tax rebate. So it'll bring it down to 30. And Elon thinks that the average one, I think, is supposed to be around 42,000 with a lot of the options added. So it's certainly not a cheap car, but it's much more affordable. I mean, it's half the price of a Model S now, and you just continue to see that trend. Then you see where that goes, and there'll be used ones on the market a couple years after that, and they're going to continue to make them more and more of them, and cheaper, and other manufacturers are going to get in on this as well, and it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time.
Right, and just to confirm it, because we like confirming things here. We're pulling this one from Yahoo, and when asked by a fan if the performance option would be offered in the Tesla new $35,000 model, by the performance option being ludicrous mode, Musk replied with a simple "of course." So
I doubt that. And maybe that depends on exactly the phrase that was used. See, there's a difference in the Model S. There's a performance version, and then there's a performance version with ludicrous, which is an additional add-on. I suspect they're going to have a performance version, but I don't think it's going to have ludicrous.
Well, the way that Elon Musk kind of replied to the response, like he's kind of asking if there's ludicrous speed, but obviously the internals of it, it's not going to be as fast as the Model S or Model X or anything like that. Like, it's not going to be as fast as the other one, but it's going to have essentially a watered down version because the internals aren't as good. So it will have a form of it, but it won't be as good as the other ludicrous speed.
Yeah. Listen, I know we love doing trivia, but at this point we're too close to the end to really do it, and I do want to do another story because I understand you're into borrowing this
Craig,
week.
The listeners are going to riot. Why? What? No quiz?
Into borrowing, and the Android Wear device, you've actually tested one out. So let's just talk about this, and we'll do a trivia next month, okay? Because we'll just back.
That work for me?
Yeah, because we can't go into the next hour because normally we have a free second hour, but we have a guest. So, and I understand you're going to be sticking around for that too. So
actually, I just got a call. I'm going to have to run after this, I'm afraid, but I'll have to listen to the podcast then and see what I can learn about quantum computing.
Okay. Well, all right. So tell us about this Android Wear device, and that again, you can see it if you look at the video. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can see it on the video there, and if you're watching the video, I've got mine in my hand here. Yeah. And so this is a Motorola 360, one of the Android watches that they have available, and it's similar to the Apple Watch that has come out too.
Yeah.
And I like it. I've never been a big fan of watches, just in general. I don't like things grabbing onto me, and I have a phobia with that. but it looks pretty good. It's relatively small. I still think it's pretty bulky. I don't know if for those who are watching the video. I mean, it's still a little bit big on my wrist, I think, and I have relatively big wrists.
Okay.
But what's nice is that it gives you all of the updates on your watch that you would usually get on your phone. So as I'm driving down the road and someone sends me a text message, I can look at my watch rather than having to dig my phone out of my pocket to see who it was. And literally, I can touch a button on the watch and it'll turn on speech recognition, and I can reply to them, and it'll reply from my watch. And that's awfully convenient. Same thing if I have an appointment coming up, it'll vibrate, and I can look at it, and at the bottom of the screen it'll say 18 minutes until you need to be wherever. And it's convenient in that regard. I like it. And you can download other apps for it. There's games. I downloaded Solitaire just to play with it on there. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Actually, I'm getting a phone call right now. As we speak, live on the show, because why not? And so
Look
yeah,
how
it's
convenient it is to ignore too. Very impressive.
yes. In fact, yes. Let me show you how to ignore it. I'm just going to swipe that way, and boom,
turn red.
I'm not on camera. Look at that. How about that? And so anyhow, I'm beginning to adapt to it. It hasn't been perfect, and I've had one instance where it actually locked up entirely, and I had to restart it, which is, I guess, like any electronic device. That's always going to be the case every once in a while. And the battery life is another problem. That it has. This particular model, the Moto 360, has enough to get me through the day. But at the end of the day, I'm usually down at like 20%.
Wow.
It's just barely enough to go through the day. So I'd certainly have to charge it every day.
And how much is left in the watch? Oh, you're talking about the watch. Oh, there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. So it is a little bulky. There's no question about it. But bulky watches are fashionable. They still are. I mean, I like the really ultra thin stuff. You're not going to get ultra thin. At least not with technology today. I'm sure they'll get thinner as time goes by.
And this one has an ambient sensor on it, so it can adjust the brightness of the screen automatically. It has what other sensors? Of course, it's a touch screen. It's got the battery in it. It's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on it, so it can even connect out through Wi-Fi.
Turn the camera so we can see it. Well, I know you're.
Yeah, let me just see if I can do this while I can't see it. So we can flip through here, and this shows me my different apps. Maybe my camera will focus on that, but maybe I need to turn the brightness. But anyhow, it shows me my different apps over here, and I can flip down through it and see, like, for example, the map app. I actually used this the other day. I was down in Frederick, Maryland, a city I don't go to very often. Beautiful city, though, and didn't know exactly where I was going. So I went and brought up the map app.
I see it.
A little bit there.
Yeah.
And you can pinch and zoom in, and it follows where you are and shows you where you are, and it's kind of convenient. I've got my Hangouts on here. I've got you can set your alarm through here. Let me see what else I can do. I've got a little web browser which is kind of cute. My calendar items, of course. Oh, the other sensor. Speaking of sensors and stuff in it, on the back, it also has a sensor for your heart rate. So it'll actually monitor your heart rate periodically and keep track of that, which would be kind of nice on a watch like this, while you were exercising. But I surely wouldn't wear a watch like this while I was exercising.
Exactly. I know the Apple Watch has that little thump thing, so that's how it alerts you rather than vibrate. It's a little thump tap. I don't know if this has the same thing.
This is more like a normal vibrate, and to be honest, this particular watch, the Moto 360, the vibration on it is really light. Like it's very difficult to even feel sometimes. There's my solitaire game.
Solitaire, yes.
Do you ever get that phantom vibrate syndrome where you like? Really
absolutely. I definitely do, and I do even more so with this thing because when it does vibrate, it's so subtle. So whenever you have the phantom one, I'm like, well, maybe it really was because
Careful what you wish for, because I think the next one, if enough people say, "Oh, it's too late," the next one's just going to blow your hand off.
Yeah. Well, some of the newer ones actually have a.
The Apple's got the tap. It's got that thump that hits you.
Yep. Well, and some of the new ones have speakers in them, so you could actually not only start and end calls with this, but you could actually communicate Dick Tracy-like right through your watch, and it has a mic in it that it uses for the voice recognition commands. But with some of the options, some of the other Android Wear devices that are out now, you can also get it so that it has a speaker in it, so you can actually carry on a full conversation right through the watch.
Wow. Okay. Well, Mike, listen, it's just interesting stuff. Always a lot of fun having you here on the show. And again, you can see, you head over to techguide.org. That's the website when you need help, and certainly are looking for help 24 hours a day. Mike, I want to thank you so much for being with us. It's a shame that you have to go on and can't stay with us, but certainly.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed because it sounds like an awesome discussion. I'm eager to hear what he has to say about quantum computing.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, again, techguy.org is the website. Mike Cermak, owner operator of techguy.org. Thanks for being here. And listen.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Well, the quiz next month will be worth double points.
That's it. Double.
All right.
Double points. Mike Cermak, thanks so much for being with us here on Today on Computer America. You have a really great rest of the week, okay?
You too. Take care, guys. See you, Ben.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, again, we've got lots of things coming up here. Of course, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about quantum computers. We've talked about quantum computers over the weeks, months in the past, and evidently now we are going to really get the scoop on it, because in the next hour we're going to be going to Zurich, Switzerland, and speak to IBM Research's quantum scientist, Dr. Andreas Forer, is going to be on with us in the next hour. It is May the 4th, and evidently IBM has made a game-changing quantum computing announcement to talk about this very exciting prospect, which evidently is going to give you, that's right, the listener, an opportunity to possibly maybe interact with this quantum computer.
Do your own quantum experiments. I know you people do them.
Yes, exactly. Well, now you can do them for real. All right, again, 347-884-8881 is the number that will get you on and get you through, or live at computeramerica.com. In the upper right-hand corner, submit a question that way for our guest. We're going to take a short commercial break, and they're going to be right back. It's not even a commercial break. It's just a station identification break, and we'll be right back. This is Computer America. IBM is up next.
Broadcasting live. It's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into hour 2 of the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And again, thanks to Mike Cermak for being with us here in the first hour of the show. Again, you can listen to any portion of the program that you might have missed at ComputerAmerica.com. Just go to the archives selection on the menu bar, and you can listen to us, Apple's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, the Blog Talk Radio Network, even on your Amazon Echo. You can listen to Computer America, and you can choose the show that you want to hear. It's all at ComputerAmerica.com, the internet home of a radio broadcast. So I understand that we have our guest ready and standing by. Ben, anything else you want to mention before we get started here?
Anything else? No. I'm really looking forward to this interview. But as for anything else, I think we are good to go.
Okay, well, let's just do it. As I mentioned, quantum computing is looked upon as being the next big thing in computing. Supposedly, quantum computers will be able to perform operations that would be impossible or take thousands of years using today's supercomputers. Now, here to tell us about what this is all about, and in Zurich, Switzerland, is Dr. Andreas Forer. He is the quantum scientist with IBM Research. Andreas, welcome into Computer America. How are you, sir?
Hello, Chris. Good. How are you?
Fine. Very pleased to have you here. How are things in Zurich?
Hopefully we aren't keeping you up too late.
Well, it's now 10 p.m., but that's still no problem for me. So
excellent. Hopefully you're a night owl.
Yes, exactly.
So we have here at Computer America have talked about quantum computers on and off for so long, and explaining what they are, what they can do, and what the promise that they hold for the next evolution of computers that will affect probably most all of us here. And we keep saying, no, they're still in their infancy. Then we had a company that actually came out with a small quantum computer, but it was very limited, very. But why don't you, in your own words, tell our listeners why quantum computing is important and what we can expect from this technology?
Right. So I guess at IBM we think that this is really going to be the next big step that computing is going to take. And if you think about that, nature in its microscopic form, where you look at atoms interacting with each other, is basically run by quantum mechanics, or you can describe nature by quantum mechanics. In order to simulate these processes at the microscopic scale exactly, you want to basically do that with a quantum system as well. And that's where the power of quantum computers comes in. So that's one of the applications that we see as one of the first applications, basically materials discovery and drug design, and understanding the processes at this microscopic or molecular scale, where we see that quantum computers will be able to outperform classical computers in the next decade or so. And basically, what we have today is not that computer yet. So we have this 5-qubit quantum processor that is available for the public to basically try out.
Ooh, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay.
But this is something that, sorry, yes.
Okay. But obviously, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But this is something that we can still emulate on a laptop or a desktop computer. But once we have 50 or 100 qubits, not even the supercomputers on the top 500 list today would be able to describe that quantum state exactly.
All right, well,
so that's where. Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, this is obviously an amazing technology, but we keep throwing the word out: quantum, 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 and of course, you hear about how quantum is so non-intuitive and that it's very difficult to understand. But
well, and also because I think a lot of a lot of movies use it as a scapegoat. And instead of developing a plot or something reasonable, they say, oh, it works on a molecular quantum level, and
right.
It's like, oh, okay, that's how Lucy becomes a USB drive.
You suspend your disbelief, but we're now in the real world, and that's why I'm very excited to speak with you, Doctor. And that is, why don't you tell a little bit about our listeners what you mean by quantum computing? What is it? Because most of our computers, they're bits, either they're true or they're false, they're on or off. That's digital. You're not dealing with that in quantum. Can you kind of explain what's going on?
Exactly. So in a quantum computer, we don't have normal bits. We call them qubits, but that's not everything. And so a normal bit is, as you say, a 0 or a 1, an on or an off or an on. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a quantum bit, the bit can also take all the states in between, if you like. And moreover, it can be both in an on and an off state at the same time. And only when you look at the bit or when you measure the bit does it decide what state it was on, it was really in, whether it was in a 1 or in a 0. And that depends on the quantum state. So this is described by the quantum state that it was in before. So it's more complex. It's, if you want, in a way, an analog representation of a digital bit. But also it holds this power of superposition, meaning that if you have one bit, a qubit can be in 2 states at the same time. If you have 2 bits, then the qubit, these 2 qubits can be in 4 states at the same time, and so on. And this is basically exponential. So the more bits you have, the larger the number of states this array of qubits can be in, and that's what's called quantum parallelism. And that's basically the power of a quantum computer. It uses this parallelism to compute many states at the same time to basically speed up certain problems.
Right, and some of those problems where we try to do forecasting or weather prediction and things that we're using our supercomputers now. I mean, when we get this, and also code breaking too. I mean, all these things that require, vast computational power that brings even supercomputers to their knees.
Right.
Something like this is going to really be the game changer.
And just so that I have it right in my head, I mean, currently, let's say someone is, kind of listening to the show and playing Tetris on a, on like a 3 gig, processor. And so if that processor was a quantum processor, instead of being, 8 billion or, no, it would be like 24 billion bits. If it was a quantum processor, it would be, however many trillion upon trillion, if it was the same, essentially, thing. With the same number of bits, it would have, exponentially more processing power with the exact same bits, right?
So I think that's probably a bit too simple to basically say it like that. I would say the opposite. So it's not that your Tetris is going to run much faster, or that your Tetris game will have much more bits in it, but it's more that if there are problems that so the quantum computer will be able to speed up only certain problems. A universal quantum computer will be able to also calculate all the traditional problems that we have, but it will be able to do certain problems exponentially faster. And that's this set of problems that can basically profit from this quantum parallelism, and typically also a problem that can be easily verified once you know the answer. And I mean, this code cracking is one such example. There is search algorithms like the Grover search algorithm, and that's another example. And there's many more such examples. So these are really algorithms that the universal quantum computer could speed up. But we're also hoping that by basically fostering a community on quantum, with basically this offering that IBM is making to the public today, that new algorithms and new ideas for faster algorithms will come up, and people will have new ideas what to do better on a quantum computer.
So if we had,
that's actually also an active research area.
So if we had a quantum computer back when we were trying to crack the Enigma machine back in World War II, it wouldn't have been a problem, would it have been?
So I think that I can answer with a yes.
Exactly. But at the same, and it's interesting because at the same time you have these types of problems. But my understanding is also with quantum computing and the algorithms that will come from this, that codes will, because by the very process of observing them or looking at them, it's going to create codes that basically are not crackable. They're unbreakable because the mere fact that you look at it changes it, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, what you're talking about is basically secure communication. Not so much, maybe I would probably not call that a code, but more like communication between 2 points which you want to be intrinsically secure. And it is true that you can do that in a way with quantum mechanics. I would not say that that's necessarily going to be a quantum computer, but what we would call quantum communication, that is intrinsically secure, so that if an observer would basically listen in, it would destroy the signal and you would know that someone had listened in.
Right, exactly, and they're saying that, and that's one of the many things. But again, as you say, this is not a computing. This is more quantum communications. Again, here we get that term quantum, and we throw it at so many different technologies that we have today. But we're kind of focusing on the quantum computing aspect here. So these are actual computers that use quantum computing. And I understand. And let me ask you this: why is IBM making quantum computing first of all, you're making one of these available to the general public, and my first question is, how do you do that? How can that be possible? And then why are you doing? Why is that?
You get on a 3 million waiting list, and it's going to be passed around by all those people.
No, but so I think this actually what we were just discussing before is exactly the core of the problem, right? So there's many ideas of what quantum is in the general public, but also even for students at universities and in enterprises, they have heard something about quantum, but it's this untangible thing that you don't really know what it is exactly, because quantum mechanics is in a way non-intuitive, if you want, or weird. And so I think with this offering, we're really making it possible for everyone to register and run their experiments in quantum mechanics on a real quantum processor and experience all these things. I mean, what I was talking about, the superposition, you can actually have a qubit, you have kind of a score, like in music, where you put notes on the score. Here you put operations on each qubit. So a line in the score is basically for every qubit there's a line on the score. So you can start with a qubit in its 0 state, and you can put it in a superposition state of 0 and 1. So that is both 0 and 1. And then you can measure it, and you will see that sometimes it's a 0 and sometimes it's a 1. And so you can actually really do experiments and test quantum mechanics and start to get some kind of a feel for what quantum mechanics does and how it is weird.
Wow.
And I think that's the exciting thing of the offering that we have today.
And again, this is on the 4th of May. You've just made this available. You've just introduced this, and we'll give out the website and in a few minutes, and people can go and look at this for themselves. And let me just ask you.
Well, and I guess I should kind of bring this up that I on the video portion we're showing the website and all that kind of stuff, but I think I actually had to request permission to access this. I guess this is to keep people from, I guess, flooding the site and bringing it to its knees.
Exactly. So I mean, now in this initial phase, I guess there will be a lot of people that sign up, and so I think they will probably portion it, but I'm sure you will get your credentials and be able to sign in, and then you get something what's called credits. And with these credits, so there's basically 2 modes that we have in this software. One is a simulation mode, and that basically means we use a classical computer to simulate quantum mechanics, which we can still do for the 5 qubits. And this simulation mode, you can run as many experiments as you like. But if you then really want to basically query your experiment on the actual quantum computer, which actually is in Yorktown Heights in the T.J. Watson Research Center of IBM, in a very cold place, so at 10 millikelvin. Basically, the input request is transferred to that quantum computer and is put in a queue. And this queue is basically worked one after the other. And when your experiment is done, you will see it, that it's finished, and you can look at the results, what came out of the real quantum computer.
Wow.
And I mean, there's something that you mentioned before about you cannot look at quantum data, that it is very sensitive to the environment. And I think that's the real interesting thing, because you can do the comparison between the ideal case, which is the simulation, which does not have an environment and does not have anyone looking at it, and you can run your experiment on the real processor, which is not fully ideal. It has a very long coherence time, probably the best for superconducting qubits that it's built on that you can have at the moment. But you can also see that there is certain deficiencies that play a role when you do your calculations. And so you can compare the real deal with the ideal simulation.
And what kind of differences can one expect? I mean, between when you start comparing the two.
Yes, imagine you put a qubit in its excited or in its 1 state. In its so if you have 0 and 1, you put it in the 1 state. And in a ideal qubit, it stays in that one state forever, right? As long as you don't do anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
But in a quantum bit, in a real quantum bit, if you put it in its excited state, in this one state, after a time of about 100 microseconds, it will decay back to its zero state. So basically, you need to do all the operations in that time frame, and this is something that you can play with, and you can see how if you wait longer, you get more zeros and less ones, and as basically time progresses, and that's because the qubit is not ideal in the real quantum processor. And then there's a tutorial that you can go through, and one of the sections talks about error correction, and it actually shows you how in a universal quantum computer, what ideas we have, how these errors can be corrected, and how this basically then affects the quantum information. In a very basic way, on a classical computer, you could simply, if you had bits that were unstable, let's say, you could simply have 3 identical bits, and if one flips, you know, because you can do a majority vote and correct for it, right?
Well, you mean you like
so
like a parity check of some sort, like a parity check?
Yes, something like a parity check, exactly. So yeah, let's say you have 3 qubits in the one state. If one flips, you say, okay, but the 2 other ones are in the one state, so I'll put all in the one state again, and you can correct for errors as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot do that on a quantum computer, because if you measure the qubit and measure that's in the one state, you destroy the quantum information. But what you can do the parity check, because the parity check is the same for the one state and for the zero state. And so you don't really get any, you don't measure the qubit, and that's why you're allowed to do the parity check, and it still tells you whether there was an error or not, and that's how the error correction then basically works.
Wow. And then if you take it to the next level, I mean, we use cyclic redundancy checks, CRCs, to do that, but that's for larger. In other words, a larger portion of information. There's a little number at the end, and you kind of check it and make that assures that all the information that was sent is in fact the correct information. If the number doesn't match up, then you know that something got corrupted in the middle.
Well, but it's very similar to that, actually, because what do you do if there's something that was corrupted? You basically resend the data, right? So
right.
If you transfer on an Ethernet or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do the check, and you realize there was a corrupt data byte,
mm-hmm.
you basically resend it until it comes through perfectly okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very similar to what we do in the quantum computer. We do an operation and we monitor the parity as we go along. And if there was, instead of an even parity, an odd parity somewhere, we know there was an error and we discard the result and run it from scratch. Or we can go through more trouble and actually correct for the error. That's another option we have.
Wow. So is this going to be a free service? I mean, is IBM going to charge for the use of its quantum computer?
No, it's completely free.
Wow. Okay.
So the idea is really that everyone can play around with this tool. I imagine there will be a queue for the real processor, not for the simulation, but for the real processor.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see how that develops. But I think it's really exciting. People can start to play with 5 qubits and see how a real quantum processor works.
I'd like for you to tell us, our listeners, a little bit, what can they do? What can the public do with these quantum bits? Can you give us some examples of things people can do? Are there experiments they can do? I mean, what can they do with this?
Yeah, so basically the way it's structured, there's several tabs. So one tab is basically giving you a tutorial, starting at what a qubit is, like I explained, that it can not only be in the 0 and the 1 state, but in superpositions of those, telling us how you can represent the state of a qubit on what's called a block sphere, basically the surface of a sphere, and so on. And then telling us about operations, how we can go from a 0 to a 1, or to a superposition of the 2, and also telling us how we can entangle 2 qubits. And that's the second quantum weirdness, so to say. So there's superposition and there is entanglement. So basically, when 2 qubits lose their individual identity and can only be described as a pair. That's in a very simple way what entanglement is, and that will be explained as well in this tutorial. And then there is, for example, a simple Grover search algorithm and a card game that you can do in a classical and in a quantum way, and it tells you about error correction and so on. And in these tutorials, there's basically experiments that you can either copy and paste directly into this score that I was talking about, or you can do your own. You can modify them. You can change things. And once you think this score, you want to run this score, then you can either press the simulate button or the run button. Simulate will transfer it to a classical computer, and the run button will transfer it to the quantum processor. For the run button, it will basically go into a queue, and you will see that this experiment is pending in the third tab. And once the answer comes back, you will see that the result is there, and you can look at the result that you got from your calculation, basically.
You know what this makes me feel like, Doctor? Again, almost like a kid. I mean, I remember, when I got my first, Gilbert chemistry set, and I had all of the basic components, or even the first computer that I got that had wires, that you could, and you literally wired your experiments together. Later on with punch cards, that type of thing. It seems to me like we're back at that beginning level where we're starting again, where we have a kit or a mechanism which allows us as analog human beings to interface with this quantum computer that IBM has on a very basic.
So I think this is a very good analogy, actually. So I would agree to that. So it's really and it was exciting for me to play around with this. It's really a nice way to basically see how the system performs. Even for quantum scientists, this is still a very interesting thing to do.
I mean, it gives you sort of like a validation of in the physical world, because before everything's on a subatomic level and it's all theory. I mean, you don't really get to get your hand into.
And before that, it's all math.
Right.
It makes sense, but it's math.
But here you actually get to play with it, which is incredibly exciting, I would think. And you as a quantum scientist are getting this as well. I think this is an amazing thing that IBM is doing and making this available again for free to anyone who wants to actually.
And now that this is open for the public, can others see experiments that you're running, or is it just sent to you, or is there like a massive collection of experiments people have run, and now the public gets to pour over the results?
So as far as I understand, at the moment, basically you have a database of the experiments that you have run yourself. In principle, you can exchange experiments that you've done, but there's no mechanism built into that cloud platform at the moment. But I mean, IBM is planning to add more qubits to this as we go along, and also add more content to really grow this community online, and have also get feedback from people running it about their ideas and about what they are doing basically on this 5-qubit chip.
Again, I'm going back a little history. I don't know how old you are, Doctor, but I remember as a kid in New York on 57th Street, IBM had a big display that people could go in and actually get hands-on on an IBM computer, and they actually had I think it was playing 20 questions. So you could go on there and you could ask questions, and then and it would answer yes or no. And you were trying to think of what it was that the computer would try to guess what it is that you were thinking of. And it was just a wonderful interface, and really put the computer out into the general public, because back then, and that was in the 60s, I mean, but people didn't have access to computers like we have now. And IBM did a wonderful thing, inspiring people at that early age just to give them a chance to play with this. And here you are doing again on a global scale, because now with the advent of the internet, and you don't have to open up a place up in 57th Street. You can make it available to anybody in the world with a computer and a browser. And I think this is a wonderful thing IBM is doing. I just have to say.
Yeah, we think so too. Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's exciting. I mean, it was an exciting day for us today as well, I think. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This just happened today, and May the
Right,
4th. May the 4th be with you. Yes, we have to say it. But
May the 4th be with you. And again, if you're watching the video portion, we are playing the video, actually, Andreas, of the Explorer R360 video of the IBM Research Quantum Lab, and and the gentleman fiddling with this thing that science fiction only wishes it could have made as a movie prop. I mean, this thing looks so delicate and so precise.
We're actually looking at the quantum computer, what it looks like. We're actually seeing it. If you're watching the live video here at computeramerica.com, you can actually see what the quantum computer looks like. And it is. It's
with the next biggest.
You're seeing, but basically the big white thing, that's where it's very cold, and that's where the quantum processor is basically sitting right now.
Right, exactly. And you have to keep it at a very cold temperature to make the quantum effects happen. This does not happen.
Yeah, so I was basically telling you that, I mean, the qubits are very fragile, and basically the environment, high temperatures, radiation, electromagnetic waves, and all these things would disturb the qubits in their operation. They're, I mean, analog entities in a way, if you want. And so to avoid that, we basically enclose them in layers upon layers of shields, and also have to cool them to extremely low temperatures, very close to absolute zero, basically.
Right. I'll tell you what, we're coming up against the break, Doctor, but we have some questions. People have some questions for you who are writing in, and I'd like to give an opportunity. And I want you to talk a little bit more about this. Also, how difficult you envision using the quantum computer, and how much longer we're going to have to wait before we see one coming into our homes. I have a feeling it's going to be a long wait, but we'll discuss that. So please stand by as we go to a commercial break, and then we'll be coming back. Ben and I are talking to Dr. Andreas Forer. He is a quantum scientist with IBM Research. We're talking about their brand new quantum computer they're making available today that you can do and use yourself. We'll be right back right after these words. Please stay with us. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. Long before Vistaprint asked me to tell you about them, my wife and I have been using Vistaprint for years, making business cards, having the Computer America logo placed on the polo shirts we use at conventions like CES, even printing a business card for our personal lives with our home address and phone number. In fact, Vistaprint offers tons of custom products for home and office needs, and Vistaprint absolutely guarantees you'll love their products every time, or they will make it right. In fact, they'll give you 500 business cards for just $9.99 when you enter my promo code Craig at checkout. Just go to their website at www.vistaprint.com and see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. Remember to use my code Craig and save up to 50% over their regular pricing. So don't wait. Go to vistaprint.com and order today. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Politicians don't know that inaction is 2 words. I'm Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, kick guard. Did you ever wonder, when bad guys kick in a door, what breaks? It's not the door or the deadbolt, but the door jamb, which tends to be a half-inch thick soft pine board. The force of the kick turns the deadbolt into a hammer, striking midway across it, near the line that's been weakened by the screws that hold the striker plate. When you see photos of kicked-in doors, that's always where the wood splits. So a cop who's kicked in his share of doors came up with an answer, the Kick Guard Shield. It's a 14-gauge steel frame that stops the split from happening. It installs behind the jamb on the side opposite the striker plate. Its fore and aft flanges brace the wood and absorb the impact while also spreading it, so there's less single-point stress. That jamb won't split, short of a hit from a 15,000-pound ape with a black belt. Bottom line, no bad guy will ever kick past a door that Kick Guard is holding fast. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show, 33 minutes past the hour. And by the way, folks, we had a couple of technical difficulties with a few of our networks, at the start of the hour, at the start of the show. But I have learned that since then we are back up and running on both TuneIn and on a couple of the others.
IRN radio.
That one as well. So they're back up and running. You can hear us again. So welcome back, folks.
Yeah.
Here in the first hour we had Mike Cermak. That was great. He's always very, very entertaining. He's a regular on the show, so many of you know him, and he is loved by many. Mm-hmm. In the second hour, first time on the show, so not loved by as many. No offense, Andreas, but Dr. Andreas Forer. He is a quantum scientist for IBM Research, and we were talking about their big announcement today that really for one of the first times, the general public can actually run an experiment and actually get to use a quantum computer for themselves, because this is unfortunately not found on Best Buy shelves just yet. And and I think one thing that we should probably make clear is that this is being done not by of course you guys are academics, but this is not being done by an academic institution. This is not by some college somewhere. This is not done by MIT. This is done by IBM, and IBM does a lot of great stuff in the corporate world, in the in the enterprise space. But at the end of the day, they are a business who has to make money. So the question is, why is IBM doing this? And I feel like I have a shadow of an answer, but I guess does IBM really see quantum computers as kind of the next thing for IBM? Like as a company as a whole, does IBM see quantum computers as its future?
So I probably wouldn't say that exactly, but it's definitely one of the next big things in computing that at least I believe are going to happen. And I think 10 years ago, I would have been skeptical. There's always people say in 20 years we'll have a quantum computer, and then 10 years later it's again in 20 years and so on. But I think today is really different. First of all, there are small quantum computers like the one that we make accessible that can be fully programmed and can be experimented with. And also, we think that in the next, let's say, decade, we can really scale this to 50 qubits or 100 qubits.
Wow.
And reach a level where we can do things with these quantum processors that could not be done on any of the supercomputers that we have today, basically.
Yeah, it would redefine what we use our current supercomputers today, which are kind of, compared to the quantum computers, are kind of massive and bulky compared to what you could do with a quantum computer for very vertical applications that we're using supercomputers for now. But now, instead of using supercomputers, we could use a 100 qubit quantum computer to perform their functions, but do it so much better, so much more quickly, and so much more efficiently. I would
see it more as doing some of the things that we use a lot of computing power for with our supercomputers, we would do in the future with the quantum computer.
Right.
Probably other things we would still do with a classical computer.
Sure.
But I mean, probably the first applications of a quantum computer would be very similar to the way you're interacting now with this 5-qubit chip. The quantum computer would sit in a computing center probably at low temperature, and would be connected through the internet to some other terminal or some company that would use the quantum computer over the internet, and basically as is done in computing centers today.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing now. Even with the supercomputers, we're doing that today. We're getting remote access. So it certainly makes all the computational, the crunching goes on the computer, and then the results are delivered back. And that's how things work. I'll tell you, we have I have a number of questions. I want one. I do have one here for you that I would like for you to address, and this one's from Marie, and she asks of you, Andreas. She says, "I'm an 18-year-old student interested in computing and physics. What classes should I study to become a quantum scientist? And does IBM offer student internships?" So.
So that's like 3 questions. So I think the first question is that there's different ways to become a quantum scientist. I myself studied physics and went into basically quantum physics at a later stage. There is people that come more from computer science that go into quantum computing. And there's also people from electrical engineering. And I think this is definitely a growing area. People realize that quantum computing is at a point where it's also about engineering and improving control systems and all of that. And so there's also a lot of engineers today that work on quantum computing. So there's not just one way to become a quantum scientist, I think. There's still, this is an area which is very broad and also interdisciplinary for the people in it, basically.
No, I understand.
And this can be done at most universities, I think. There is universities that have special focuses and less quantum physics and some that have more. In terms of internships, there are internships from time to time at IBM. One would need to basically go through the channels at the respective sites and find out about what possibilities there are.
That makes perfect sense. Again, when I see what we're doing with quantum computers today, again, I am reminded of myself. I remember when the first integrated circuit. It was a wonder, but basically it was pretty. If we look at today with integrated circuits and one of the first ones that I saw, when they first came out, I think we're sort of like at this very, very beginning stage.
Well, think of it this way: you probably wouldn't be able to design something like a quantum computer if you didn't have the stepping stone of the computers that we have today.
But my point to Dr. Andreas was that I think that we're at the point now where we're starting to see, but what we're doing when we look at it 10, 15, 20 years from now is going to be considered, we kind of smile and say, oh, it was kind of a crude. It was, we started here, but we had so much further to go. I think we're at the beginning steps. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so in a way, I would agree that we're at the beginning steps, but on the other hand, I think the path is much clearer today than it was 10 years ago. And there was tremendous progress in the last 5 or 10 years of people improving the quality of these quantum processes, the control, the speed, and all aspects that are necessary to really put these quantum systems together. And so I mean, one of the things that I addressed previously, one of the problems is that controlling a qubit at the moment requires bulky hardware. Basically, we need to generate microwaves and other pulse shapes to control these qubits. And you have to imagine that for, let's say, 4 qubits, you have a rack of electronics currently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that will happen in the next 5 years for sure, that we will miniaturize these electronics and basically make the control electronics much smaller. That can be done with today's technology.
Right, more elegant. Yeah.
Without any problem.
Yeah, more elegant.
And
I would
then
think, yeah.
the other thing is that we'll scale up the quantum chips and put more qubits on the chips when we have basically more electronics that can control these qubits. And we'll try to understand what the limitations are in scaling this up.
So you think the magic number is going to be a 50 qubit or a 100 qubit computer? I mean, where do you think we're going to take it out of the lab and say we can actually, okay, now we have something that's practical that we can start actually using this? I know you mentioned 10 years.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, as I said, 50 to 100 qubits, I imagine will happen in the next decade or so. And if you think about what you can do with it, I think that is not entirely clear yet. But one thing that we can say for sure, the quantum state that is represented, to basically store the information in a quantum state of, let's say, 50 or 60 qubits, you would need something like 20,000 terabytes of conventional memory. And if you now imagine doing an actual operation on this quantum state, as is done in a quantum computer, you would need to crunch these 20,000 terabytes of data and basically do a calculation on that. And with every additional bit, this number is doubled. And so you can imagine with 100 qubits, this is already a number that no computer could store. Just storing the quantum information would not be possible today in a normal computer, in a normal supercomputer.
Right. And and that immediately brings to mind another technology that is, currently improving by leaps and bounds is, the idea of artificial intelligence, because we're, a couple 3-letter government agencies, at least here in the U.S., they have data collection. I'm not really going to argue the merits of that, but they're finding that sometimes you can collect so much data, you can have so much data at your fingertips, but at the end of the day, how is one person, how is a team of people going to sift through, something that it would take you months, if not years, to read, let alone process? So do you think artificial intelligence, when it comes to computing, Google just had their DeepMind, I want to say, with AlphaGo and whatnot. But yeah, Google's working on it. I'm sure IBM is working on it somewhere. But do you think artificial intelligence has to go hand in hand with quantum computing?
So, I mean, this is definitely an active field of research. People think that with quantum computers, some optimization problems can be solved faster. The speed up is not exponential in that case. It is the speed up that we expect from a quantum computer is smaller, but we don't know yet. No one has shown that there is a real speed up in general optimization problems and in artificial intelligence. But I think this is something that we will be able to explore once we go to 50 and more qubits, basically.
What do you think? What do you project the area of specialty for quantum computers will be? I mean, is it going to be weather forecasting predictions? I mean, what area do you think is going to benefit best from the advent of quantum computing?
Yeah, sure, Craig. So I think to me it seems that material discovery and understanding quantum processes in molecular systems will be something where quantum computers will have a first impact. It's something that is also called analog quantum simulation. Basically, you simulate a quantum system in nature that you cannot really tune. I mean, it's hard to kind of move atoms apart and put them closer together in a controlled way, right? Because they're really tiny. Mm-hmm. But in qubits, you can do that. You can basically artificially decouple them or couple them again. And so if you imagine you encode a molecular system in a set of a number of qubits, which you can fully tune. So it's similar to you having this molecule in your lab and being able to move parts of the molecule apart and looking at the energies and what happens basically with the structure of this molecule. And this is something that you will be able to do with a quantum computer of a few qubits.
To what?
And explore
to what?
with a few qubits, sorry,
Yeah,
50 or 100 qubits.
Right. To what end? To what end? What will that show us?
I mean, there are certain reactions today that we do not fully understand in catalysis. Even a molecule as small as caffeine, for example, it will be hard to simulate exactly on a classical computer. You can do either approximations, which may lose some of the features that nature has, right? Or you will not actually be able to describe what happens if you're unlucky, basically. And with a quantum computer, we may have access to that in a more exact way.
What about?
And this may, for example, allow us to find new catalysts that make reactions less energy demanding and really have a big impact on industry as well.
What about in strictly theoretical or mathematical analysis? I mean, like chaotic systems, that type of thing. Where are there models where we'll be able to get a better handle on things like that with the quantum computing?
That I'm not sure. I mean, the equations that govern quantum mechanics are typically not chaotic equations.
They seem that way.
So I'm not aware of any applications in chaotic systems. But there are people thinking about systems with big data, as in basically weather forecasting problems, or in basically data analysis on the internet. Or one aspect where IBM is active also is in large telescope arrays, where there's so much data that comes in, and you need to basically look for certain features. And these are all systems that, maybe a quantum computer could also have an impact in the future. But I don't think that this will be the first application. I think the first application will be more on materials and drug design.
But that's not to say that
or security as well, as we said before, right?
Right. Although again, weather forecasting still one of the big things that is used by supercomputers because the data, the number is so vast that by the time
for some reason people love to know if it's going to rain in 3 days. That's very important to us as a society.
But there it is, they can get the answers more quickly. You can get more accurate forecasts up to the moment by moment. Yes, so the weather seems to be chaotic, but there are patterns in the chaos that may be detected by systems like this that can do the number crunching.
There's many new applications out there that we're not even thinking of for quantum computers. I mean, so I think there's going to be much more applications that will come up once we have systems that we can actually work on, right? So it's hard to come up with the algorithms if you don't have a system to run them on. And so for some applications, we know that there will be a speed up. For others, we think that there will be a speed up, which is this artificial intelligence and optimization type of problems. And for other applications, we simply don't know the good algorithms yet, right? That will lead to a speed up on a quantum computer.
Right. Yeah, and
something that IBM is also actively pursuing. I mean, we had this conference last year where we actually asked the question, what will be other applications for a quantum computer in the future?
Right, exactly.
that was the whole thing that I got from from the last couple of minutes of this conversation was that obviously IBM and this website that you guys just launched, the ability to run these experiments on an actual quantum computer, kind of drumming up some interest and drumming up ideas, letting people not physically touch it, but at least in a way touch it. It seems like IBM and you guys are doing the research. There are it sounds like you just need a million more minds to think of all the different possibilities of using quantum computers. So you're trying to drum up interest, kind of make college going kids and college graduates say, maybe I should kind of pursue quantum computing as a field of research. It seems like you're trying to drum up interest.
So I think this is definitely one aspect of it. And I mean, another aspect is that, I mean, we discussed previously that for many people, they've heard about quantum in Star Trek or in Star Wars or in other shows where this is used as a modifier, right? To say, okay, it's something that we don't understand or that is weird. And I think we want the people that are interested to overcome this barrier and basically explore how weird it is, and I mean, see that one can understand it and start to think, what can quantum mechanics do for me? I mean, either for my career at university or for my company, maybe in the future, right? And so I think this is the other aspect that IBM is thinking about with this offering.
Well, as we're getting toward the end of the interview, Doctor, again, when do you think a universal quantum computer is going to be available? Is it going to be 10 years, 20 years? What kind of a time frame? Realistically, what do you think?
So traditionally, we always say 20 years, right? But I mean, this is a hard question. So today, I think we have an idea on how the architecture of a scalable universal quantum computer should look like. That's a lattice architecture, and we've basically demonstrated that we can make the unit cell of this lattice, which we need to basically populate with multiple of these unit cells now. And in principle, it sounds straightforward, right? So now we just multiply the unit cells and everything is good. And then probably in next year, we'll have the universal quantum computer. But we already know that there will be problems in this with basically qubits interacting with each other that should not, and also quantum information being lost. And basically, we need to correct the errors that happen in this quantum computer. And this is something that will require an overhead. And there's basically two approaches to improving this. One is you can use more qubits. So basically, in error correction, I mean, you can have one check bit for 8 data bits, or you can have 8 check bits for 1 data bit, right? And depending on which way you go, you'll have a bigger overhead. You will need many more bits to represent one logical bit, basically.
Right.
And the same is true for a quantum computer. At the moment, we're at the level that we think we probably need about maybe 1,000 qubits to represent one logical bit, which does not lose its information forever, basically.
Wow.
But there's another exponentially growing, what should I say, exponentially improving specifications, which is basically the qubits get better every year. And so as they get better, we need less and less qubits for the error correction. And where these two numbers or these two trends will meet in the end, this is not clear yet. And I think this is something that we'll find out in the next 10 years or so. And that's why at the moment, we know in principle how to do it, but we need to sit down and actually do it and see what problems we encounter on the way, basically.
Wow. Well, again, people can go to the website. What's at ibm.com/research. Ben, I believe is that the where you're at now, showing that out, and then you can see
research.ibm.com/quantum.
Quantum, and we have the link up at our website at computeramerica.com. You can check it out for yourself, and you can do it. It's a free service. You can actually control or use a quantum computer, and it is available as of today. IBM has released this and making it quantum computing in the cloud. It's available to anyone and anywhere. You can do it, as I said, traditionally with the digital computer, and then use it with the actual quantum computer and compare the results. Doctor, I know it's getting late where you are, but I really want to thank you for taking the time to let our listeners know about this really amazing project that IBM has just released to the general public. And thank you so much for being with us, taking the time. I know it's getting late in Zurich, but thank you so much for being with us here today on Computer America.
Thank you for having me.
All right, sir. Listen, you have a great day, and and thank you again for being with us here on the show. Take care.
Bye. You too.
All right. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, there he goes. All right, bye-bye. All right, Dr. Andreas Forer, again, quantum scientist with IBM Research, talking about that it's available
90
now.
90 seconds.
Go out, try it for yourself.
Well, go out and apply, and then like you said, you will definitely receive your credentials. So, but yeah, no, it's first of its kind.
Yes, it is, and again, it is available, and you can do it. Now, coming up on tomorrow's show, again, we're going to have a company called SNDR is going to be joining us, and it's a new app that combines all the ways you already communicate into a single platform without placing limits on the channels you want to use: social media, text and email, file sharing, all that stuff. We're going to have them on the program in the first hour. We're going to have Mr. Sean Murphy, who is the CEO of SNDR. It's pronounced Sender, actually. It's spelled SNDR, but they pronounce it Sender. And then, of course, in the second hour, we'll have computer and technology news. That's brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. Again, thanks to Mike Cermak for being here as well. And all of you have a wonderful day. And Ben and I will see you same time, same place, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman, hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one, everyone.
Where's
10 seconds.
Where's my quantum computer?
What's a floppy?
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, again, everybody, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun and very informative, and we're very happy to bring that to you. Thanks for being with us here on our live streaming video. We'll see you tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.